In the last episode, we spoke about creating sustainable rhythms for your marketing and how setting up these consistent rhythms can help you be more consistent online, show up regularly, and take off the pressure of that constant content creation. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I definitely recommend checking it out. Today, we are diving a little bit deeper into how we can make these rhythms more sustainable. Because if we're honest, great plans only work if they are put into action. So if your marketing feels overwhelming right now, this episode is for you. We're going to cover some practical ways that you can make these rhythms stick, including things like automation, team involvement, and ways to repurpose your content. So if that sounds like your vibe, keep listening. The first one is to create your own content bank. I'm such a big fan of having a bank of content, especially content that is pre-approved and ready to go. And one thing I do and recommend to as many nonprofits that can make this happen in their organization is to have a regular photo shoot of your projects and your programs and your people and your teams in action. This will give you great quality photos to refer back to and use everywhere and anywhere, from your website to your social media to your annual reports. This bank and archive of photos is just such a great resource to have so that you aren't trying to snap some photos of particular projects all for one social media post. I definitely encourage you to include some video content in there if you can, and build up a library of B-roll content that you can use in any of your videos, especially on something like Instagram Reels. This allows for easy content creation and just makes the content creation process so much easier and so much faster. Now, the second rhythm is to automate repetitive tasks. This is all about making your life simpler, especially in marketing. If you can automate some of those repetitive, predictable tasks, you're going to save yourself so much time. I'd recommend things like using a social media scheduling tool to batch schedule all of your social media content. This creates that consistency that I know I talk about so often and makes your social media feel almost effortless and saves you time because you're not having to create content on the day. I want you to get off that hamster wheel. Even things like your email marketing can be automated. Set up a funnel to welcome in new donors, for example, welcome in new subscribers to your newsletter. There's just so much you can do to save yourself some time. The third rhythm I'd recommend establishing is to set up a content collection system. I know gathering content from many different people in your organization can be tricky. Not everyone necessarily knows to share certain information with you, and then when you go to create content, oftentimes you're having to go back and forth with this particular person to actually get the content that you need. So by setting up this content collection system, you can streamline that process, have clear questions that you ask when someone is submitting content, especially if you're gathering content for your social media or for your newsletters or your annual report. This could also look like setting up a folder and sharing it with your project managers, any key people that need to be feeding you with content, especially photos and videos, so that they know exactly where and how to share that content on a consistent basis. You can use this to gather testimonials, to gather clips, photos, videos, whatever it might be. And the best part is that it's all in one place. Another content collection system that I've seen really helpful for nonprofits on the ground that are active in communities and often doing project work in teams is having a WhatsApp group where your project managers or your teams or your volunteers can share photos, can share videos, can share stories. Again, this keeps your content collection all in one place. And perhaps that's a solution for you to try, especially with team members that perhaps aren't as technically savvy as others. The fourth rhythm that you can set up is to create a low-lift content series. Now, you might know by now that I am absolutely all for repurposing your content. Taking what you've already created and repurposing it into a different piece of content. This helps keep your content creation low maintenance. You could establish this low-lift content series as a core pillar of your marketing, taking, say, pieces of content or information or stories from your annual report, breaking them up into smaller bite-sized pieces and sharing them throughout your social media on a monthly basis. And I really want you to remember that this repetition is not a bad thing. Not everyone is going to see the content that you share or even read your annual report in this instance. So breaking things up into bite-sized pieces and resharing them on your social media is going to reinforce that message, ensure you are consistent with what you are saying and how you are saying it, and really help emphasize the impact of your work and tell your stories. Plus, it just removes that content creation pressure from your team, making it a little bit easier to create and put out quality content. Now, the fifth rhythm that I'd really encourage you to set up for your nonprofit is a content creation calendar that aligns with your fundraising efforts. We absolutely want to make sure that whatever marketing you are putting out aligns with your fundraising as well as your nonprofit's bigger goals. This is your opportunity to look ahead at your fundraising calendar. Perhaps you have major events planned or campaigns that you're going to be running, and then to create and schedule content that all supports those. For example, if you're going to be running a major year-end campaign, we want to make sure that you've got content that begins to warm up your audience earlier in the year, say September, October. Start sharing those impact stories. You want your content calendar to support those fundraising efforts and really help prime and prep your audience for what is to come. You'll also want to make sure that if you're building up to a big campaign, you're not making a number of asks prior to that. You're focusing more on building that connection, building that engagement, really educating your audience, and also trying to get more eyeballs on your nonprofit so that by the time you launch your campaign, your audience is primed and ready to give. This content calendar can make such a difference in helping your team feel less pressured to be creating content at the last minute. If you've been struggling to keep up with your marketing, I hope these tips and rhythms have been helpful for you. And I'd love to hear if you're going to be implementing any of them. Leave me a comment or let me know on social media which one was most valuable for you. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love it if you could leave us a review, subscribe to this channel, and make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, keep doing incredible work, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next episode.